Our third album is Lonely People with Power by Deafheaven. This was picked by Karl for the poll and squeaked ahead of Green Tea Peng, as we spoke about a little bit earlier. So thanks to everyone who voted. And yeah, Karl, over to you.
Yeah, really glad this one ended up on the board for this month. I think, like so many, came to Deafheaven through their second album, Sunbather. I think before that, I'd always enjoyed my heavy music, but black metal up until that point wasn't something I ever dabbled in or listened to. So, it was one of those where I saw the acclaim that Sunbather was getting online. And it was kind of at that time where, I was just starting to write about music, and dived into it and was just absolutely captivated by it. The cliche Blackgaze fusion, as it would become known, and just mixing these really dark vocals and black metal riffs, but with the vibrancy of these shoegaze passages and stylings. It was just like, well, it was just unlike anything I'd ever heard before at that point. And yeah, 2013 did my first album of the year list, and this landed at number 3 in what was like an absolutely stacked year as up 2. So, it's one that I actually listened to as well. When this one got on the board, so still an album 12 years later that I've got a lot of time for. Still sounds great. But yeah, just followed them from there. New Bermuda immediately hit the same heights. Ordinary Corrupt Human Love, I didn't take to quite as much, but I know, the big hardcore Deafheaven fans really adored that record. That's probably my least favorite of theirs. But yeah, probably the most important album for the context of this one is their last record, 2021's Infinite Granite, which, hugely divisive album for the band's fan base. Saw them just completely abandon the black metal side of their sound and lean fully into the shoegaze side. George Clark switching the screamed vocals out for clean vocals. And yeah, it did cause quite a stir. I personally really love that record. It still felt like Deafheaven to me, and there's some fantastic songs on there. Ended up in my top 5 of the year. But yeah, I feel like with some fans not taken to that record, it did leave the question mark of, okay, where they're going to go next? Where do they go from here? Because, do they continue down this path and, isolate some of their older fans, but potentially gain new ones on the way? We've kind of seen that with bands like Bring Me the Horizon and Architects, who have also kind of, mellowed out in recent years. Or was it, do they go back to what they do best? And I think with Lonely People with Power, the answer is sort of, it's the latter, but also sort of neither. It's like, I would say, like, this is the heaviest album they've ever done. Like, the riffs here are just relentless. They're brutal. It's a complete 180 to what we heard from them on Infinite Granite. But yeah, it's kind of new, but it also feels like a return to that classic Deafheaven sound. For me, this is like a new superior version of what they did before. There is like this noticeable evolution here, but also a good callback to everything that they've done before. They've taken all like the best elements from their previous 5 albums and delivered for me like what feels like the ultimate kind of Deafheaven experience. And I absolutely love it. Like I said, this is like the heaviest record yet. The riffs are thunderous, the vocals are scorching, but to avoid it becoming like overwhelming, they drop in these brief moments of like serenity that just let like the smoke clear for just a second, and then like the fire starts up again. And yeah, I mean, the first half of this, just breathtaking. That run from Doberman through to Amethyst is just seismic. It like just doesn't let up. Heathen, Magnolia, the 2 singles that they kind of released before, sandwiched in there. Really adore Garden Route as well. And then after you get like this 8-minute hurricane of Amethyst, we get that atmospheric passage with Jay Matthews, the vocalist on that one, just allows you to catch your breath for like a bit of a moment. Like the start of that song, it reminded me a bit of Nadine Shah. And then right at the back end, you get this thunderous drop out of nowhere. It jolts me up every time I hear it, where you got George Clark coming back in with like those evil growls and everything's just coming back to life again. And then, yeah, it's back off to the races. You got Revelator, Body Behavior, the latter, one of my favorite tracks on here. We even get another breather. Paul Banks of Interpol comes in with like a spoken word poem in the back half. And then you get two really dramatic, quite soaring tracks in the back end with Winona. And then, yeah, the last track, Marvelous Orange Tree, just incredible. So yeah, I've tried to breeze through that as quickly as I can. But yeah, it's one of those that the more I spin it, I think, some Bathers are a tough one to top, but the more I spin it, I think this could be their best album yet. Obviously, won't be for everyone with the harsh scream vocals, but yeah, I think if you like your shoegaze, you like Deafheaven's previous work, you like your heavy music, I don't think you could ask for anything more than what we get on this one. It's just, for me, it's epic in every way, and I just hope one day I get a chance to see them live, because they're still a band that 12 years later I've never seen live, so that's one on my list.
Make it happen. So yeah, I mean, Kylie, you're another fan of Deafheaven. So do you agree there with Karl's take?
Yeah, 100%. I think this is a just phenomenal record, and before getting into it, just got to say, Infinite Granite haters, GTFO. Come on, that album is so good, and like applause for a black metal band trying something different instead of just going to the same formula over and over. With that being said, as I said in the group chat, I like my Deafheaven anyway. And when Magnolia came out at the beginning of the year, it was just an immediate hell yeah, just so glad to have them back doing this. I echo, mostly what Karl said on this record. I think, yes, the screaming vocals aren't for everyone, but I think they also went with an interesting choice for producer on this, with Justin Mel Johnson, who's been around forever, and in capacity as a touring musician and producer, and just taking a look back to the last few years. He's produced St. Vincent, Ali X, who we also talked about, M83, which is, completely different from what we're working with here. And I think the way that he mixed those vocals in with the rest of the music, it's abrasive, but it's not over the top like a lot of, black metal that I'm not usually into. And, Deafheaven is one of those bands that is lucky to get that crossover. There's a lot of fans that aren't necessarily into the genre, including myself, that absolutely adore them. I think it works really great. And I don't know what the hell he's saying half the time, and that's okay. It just kind of works in as another instrument in the mix. But yeah, I mean, Karl stamped same thing. This is just a wonderful record, and I'm in the same dilemma of going back and forth, where Sunbather obviously is their classic record, and a lot of good memories in that. But yeah, this is just an amazing album. And I was just spinning it again this morning, and just like, damn, I think over the course of this year, hopefully, who knows, it might take my spot as my favorite record of theirs. It's a really mature record. They know what they're doing.
There we go. So two very strong reviews there, and then and then the outlier over here. I mean, Karl, you sort of said when they were on, like, not sure in terms of how I would take to it, and this is my first taste of Deafheaven. I mean, I think I scratched my head quite a bit because I mean, on album of the year with the Users, it's like virtually #1 as well. You guys absolutely waxing lyrical about it, and then I listened to it, and you know, and to be fair, it wasn't a criticism when I said it sounded like Cradle of Filth in terms of his vocals, the theatre of it. Like, you know, I actually back in the day quite, you know, like that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think relentless was another word you used to describe the album, Karl. Kiley, you just said there, the abrasive vocals. And that's the thing which I just can't really, you know, I just can't ever think, oh yeah, I'm going to stick on a bit of Deafheaven now and just make sure that, you know, I'm not playing it out loud if anyone else is around.
You might be an Infinite Granite kind of guy then.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, Philippe was saying that would be an interesting entry point, and then maybe I'd scratch my head more about the rest of it and think, no, you should be a shoegaze band or whatever. And the kind of anti Deafheaven sort of fan group perhaps in that way. But yeah, like, you know, I think there are some good moments. There are, you know, the drama is there, and you know, and memorable moments as well. I think, Karl, as you mentioned, the one with the female vocalist where just suddenly there's that sort of and the vocals come back in again just to sort of wake you just as you you know, foolishly might think that you can relax. So yeah, I can appreciate it, but I think it goes back to one of your sayings, Karl, where it's kind of like admiring it without like you know, loving it myself. And I think I get why there is so much acclaim for this album, and what Deafheaven is doing. But personally, yeah, I think the vocals is hard for me to get over, and yeah, there are moments where the music itself is just like, I mean, probably the drums in particular is the thing I've just am like, it's kind of formless. It's just like, and which I get, it's supposed to be a kind of dissonant atmospherics and stuff. But yeah, I suppose, you know, not being a complete stranger to metal music of that size, I'm more into the more kind of intricate drumming of, say, Mastodon or in Trivium or that side. Kind of that's where I will get in, and the drumming on here didn't quite lure me in like that heavier stuff has done in the past. So you know, we've done well. We've had 3 albums where there's been almost universal acclaim, and that we've reached that first kind of divergence. And it'd be boring if we just all like the same album.
Well, sure.
Everyone listening, it's like good to get a bit of a different opinion. But I feel on this, like, I feel like I'm the only one in the world. I know I'm not, but it's just when you're so sucked into the album of the year and stuff, like this is just like everyone is loving this album. And
this was I was going to say, this was my revenge for Richard Dawson last month.
yeah. Well, like I say, might be seeing him tomorrow night. But yeah, that album, I love that end of the middle album. So there we go.